Hello and welcome. So today's video is going to be all about the crown of St Wenceslas and the curse that is apparently on it. So the crown of St Wenceslas is one of the oldest surviving crowns in Europe. So St Wenceslas never owned the crown. It was made for the first king of Bohemia, who was Charles, who was also emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. So the crown is made of 22-carat gold and is set with sapphires, rubies, emeralds and pearls. And a thorn, supposedly from the crown of thorns that Jesus wore at his execution, is inside the cross at the top of the crown. So the crown is stored in the crown chamber at St Vitus Cathedral in Prague Castle. And to get to the crown and the other crown jewels, you need 7 keys. So there's supposedly a curse on the crown that said if anyone who does not have a legitimate claim to the throne of Bohemia puts the crown on, then they would die a horrible death within a year. The crown is said to contain the immortal spirit of St Wenceslas, who protects the Bohemian people by keeping unqualified people off of the throne. So the Kingdom of Bohemia lost its independence in 1620 when it became part of the Austrian Empire, and then in 1867 it became a crown land in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then finally in 1918 the Kingdom of Bohemia was completely abolished when it was incorporated into the newly formed Czechoslovakia, which was formed after the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Now, during World War II, Czechoslovakia was occupied by the Nazis. In September of 1938, Germany, Italy, France and the UK all signed the Munich Agreement, which resulted in the territories on the border of Czechoslovakia being given to Germany. This was done because it was thought that if Hitler had these territories, then he would not want to take over other territories. In October 1938, the Germans forced the Czechoslovakian president to abdicate. And then in November, Emil Hascha became president. So on the 14th of March 1939, Hitler invited Hascha to Berlin and told him that he either had to accept the establishment of a German protectorate or face invasion. Hascha refused both of these until he was literally forced to accept one of them. And then the German army entered Czechoslovakia. Reinhard Heydrich became the protector there. So it is said that one day Heydrich and his sons got all the keys to the royal crown jewels and then secretly visited St Wenceslas's chapel. While they were there, Heydrich, believing that he was the legitimate leader of the people, put on St Wenceslas's crown. A few months later, he was dead, having been assassinated in Prague by Czech paratroopers that had been sent over by the former president's exiled government in the UK. Now, while I was finding out all about the cursed crown, I did find a few other stories about items related to St Wenceslas that supposedly had sort of magical or legendary stuff related to them. So I'm going to tell you a few. So another legend about an item relating to St Wenceslas is to do with his helmet. Now, his helmet is not part of the crown jewels, but it is considered a national treasure. So every year on the 28th of September, the preserved crown of St Wenceslas is taken by procession from Prague Castle to Staroboslav, the place where St Wenceslas was murdered by his brother. Now, the guards that guard the castle are mainly foreigners because this kept them out of political things, because these political things would really not affect them. So one time, don't know when, because this is a legend, one time a foreign soldier complained that having to stand on duty for the procession was a waste of his time. He could have been doing better things like drinking and gambling. And he cursed St Wenceslas for basically ruining his day. As soon as he said this, the man was just struck blind. Doctors tried everything to try and get him to see again, but nothing worked until a priest had the helmet of St Wenceslas placed on his head. Immediately, the man could see again, and he was never again upset about anything to do with St Wenceslas. Another legend says that in the nation's darkest hour, St Wenceslas will return and claim the sword of Prince Brunswick and lead the sleeping knights of Blannock into battle. So Prince Brunswick is from an old Czech legend. He apparently befriended a lion and battled lots of mythical creatures. Now, people have questioned why Wenceslas and the knights did not return during World War II, but other people countered this by saying that there is worse peril yet to come. Now, Prince Brunswick's sword probably didn't exist because the sword that is in the collection is not known to have been his and is known to be a completely different sword. So there we go. There's the story of the cursed crown of St Wenceslas, and also about some stuff that happened with other items of his. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.